All right.
All right, so I'm just vamping for a few seconds here. Make sure the restream is all queued up. And that should be good. So this is the part where I say, "Hi, I'm Trevor, and welcome to Catching Up on Cinema." If you aren't familiar with the program, Catching Up on Cinema is a film analysis podcast wherein we introduce each other to films, expand our cinematic horizons, and, in essence, catch up on our cinema. So it is the month of March, the very end of March 2025, and is that very special time of the month where we do a very special Catching Up on Blu-ray episode. And in joining me in this endeavor, I have my good buddy Brad. Hey, how's it going, Brad?
I mean, it's another catching up on Blu-ray. How can it not be going well? It is going great. And will this be a month where I spend a lot of money, or will it be one where I save some green? We're gonna get into it and find out. But that's what we call in the industry a tease, right there. So stay tuned.
Well said, Brad. As for myself, I'm just gonna blow the wad right out the gate and just say I spent some money this month.
Oh,
We'll get to it when we get to it, though. So, dear listeners and hopefully viewers, if you're not familiar, um, a catching up on Blu-ray episode is essentially Brad and I, our excuse to take a look at the upcoming physical media release calendar. So that would be DVDs, Blu-rays, 4K movies, and television series that are coming out in the month in question. In this case, March 2025. And just kind of like scout things out, take a look at what's coming out, and maybe point to some things that we might be planning on buying and or watching. So we're just going to progress through the calendar. And if you're not familiar with how physical media releases generally occur, they generally drop on Tuesdays of each calendar week. So we'll be sure to call out the release dates as we progress through the calendar. And if you would like to follow along with the home version of Catching Up on Blu-ray, you can do so by navigating to the lovely website of Blu-ray.com and just head to the release dates section of the website, and it should drop you to whatever month is contemporary. In this case, March 2025. So you may have noticed I already have it pulled up on my share screen, which is absolutely hideous because Blu-ray.com, we love you, but your ads are out of control, and I don't really have the means of controlling that.
they got to keep the lights
So
on somehow.
exactly. So you take the good with the bad. So if you get some weird fucking ads, that'd be why. It's not me. I don't collect any ad revenue on this stuff. I don't get enough viewership to collect ad revenue on this stuff. But you may have noticed our first release date here in the month of March 2025 drops on the 4th of March. And as is per the norm with how Blu-ray.com arranges their releases, 4Ks generally take precedence, meaning they're arranged at the forefront of any calendar week. So don't be surprised if the 4K titles are the ones that we call out first from week to week. So Brad, right out the gate, we have Ridley Scott, who is a very talented filmmaker, as far as I understand. We have Ridley
Brilliant
Scott's
filmmaker.
a brilliant filmmaker. Excuse me for misquoting the man, the myth, the legend, Denzel Washington, not Denzel, Denzel Washington. We've learned this in recent years, Brad.
Mm-hmm.
Denzel Washington's quote about Ridley Scott, a man who's very familiar with the Scott family, by the way,
Yeah.
but worked with both Tony and Ridley, Sir Ridley. Gladiator 2 is coming to 4K, also in a Steelbook edition. This came out last year, 2024. And Brad, thoughts on Gladiator 2?
Well, I will say that I was not a big fan of Gladiator 2. But in all fairness, I'm not like the biggest Gladiator 1 fan. I'm not the biggest Gladiator head, to be totally honest with you.
Yeah.
But I thought this one had some okay moments, but honestly kind of dull. And I don't know, the action didn't do all that much for me. Like I really thought some of the cool ideas of like the naval battle in the Coliseum would be way more interesting, and felt like that was kind of a letdown. And yeah, it was all right, but I mean, I'm not in any rush to pick this up. Maybe I'd like to see some of the bonus features on here. There's not a ton, but there's some decent stuff. Like there's no extended making of documentary on this one.
Really?
Like, yeah, so I don't know if there's anything where that would maybe come later down the pipe. I think that's how Prometheus's making of documentary. I think that didn't come out on the initial release. It was like on a later release, like the 3D Blu-ray release. But anyway, I wasn't overly crazy about it. How about you?
Yeah, unfortunately, that was the case with me too. And I am a Gladiator head. I happen to really like Gladiator. I saw it in the theater when I was 13, which I want to say is probably exactly the right age for a boy
Yeah.
to go see Gladiator, honestly, because I could see it maybe losing a little bit of its luster if you come at it like as an adult for the first time. But yeah, I really, really like Gladiator. We did review it for Catching Up on Cinema around the time Gladiator 2 was coming out, and both Kyle and I, upon rewatch, still quite like it. Gladiator 2, unfortunately, just it just doesn't have the flow, it doesn't have the juice. Just there's just something missing there. A lot of it was it Paul Mescal or
Hmm.
Mescal. I don't know about that guy, man. I don't, this I look at this guy and like in wrestling terms, I'm like, you're pushing that guy. It's like this is the guy. This is the guy that we're pushing right now. It's like
Yeah.
I don't know if this is the guy.
I think specifically for this movie, he was miscast, because he was in the movie After Sun, and he's amazing in that, but that's, like,
Okay.
a very, like, quiet, introspective role and character. In this, you're you hate to compare it, but you're following up Russell Crowe, and, I mean, this guy's no Russell Crowe. If you're going for something really big and grand, I just don't think this is not your guy.
Yeah, and not only that, like I don't care about spoilers or anything, but I honestly don't care to go very deep on this conversation. But just the character himself, like divorced from the performance, like the character, it's like really this is who we're basing the narrative around. Like why? Like
Mhm.
tell a different story because it feels weirdly attached to the first one in strange ways where it's like maybe just pull away and do something else as opposed to trying to make nods to what came before because you're not going to win that you're not going to impress me in the same ways. It's not going to carry the same weight. That nostalgia pop isn't the same as the unique introductions that we got in the first film. But
Yeah.
it's a grand lavish production and yet somehow it doesn't quite have the same grandness. I remember in the first Gladiator, when they get to the Colosseum, which doesn't happen for a decent amount of the movie, like when they get there, the Colosseum itself is given a grand unveiling. Like it's an event. Like the way it's shot, the way it's displayed to us, we're meant to be impressed by it. And part of that has to do with it's the year 2000, and these effects by the standards of the day are very impressive. So they're
Mhm.
trying to push that aspect of it. This one, they make almost no attempt to do that. Like the grandeur of it is seemingly not a priority. And if you're going to do this like grand operatic storytelling, like this Shakespearean tragedy kind of shit, like go big, like go melodramatic. And at times, I guess they do, but in terms of the presentation, it felt like maybe toot your own horn, maybe give me reasons to be excited about things, because more often than not, like action beats and like spectacle scenes just kind of fall into your lap and with no real build up, with no real sense of build or hype. And it's very disappointing in that way, but it's an okay movie to look at. Like it has that going for it, but just something about the narrative just didn't really it just didn't really work for me that much.
Yeah, yeah, I'm with you. It was, I remember the trailer came out too, and I thought the trailer was awesome. Some people weren't as crazy about it initially, but, yeah, maybe my hype was a little too high, but yeah, just kind of let down. But and I love me some Ridley Scott, but I'm one who will fully admit he does not have like a perfect track record like that. There's a lot of Ridley Scott movies that I do not like, and this unfortunately is one of them.
Yeah, no, it was a bit of a disappointment, but like you say, he's when he's good, he's great. He has had some missteps from now, like every now and again, but his name carries so much weight that it's like I will watch almost anything this man makes, and that was
Mhm.
kind of the case with this. Where personally, I didn't have much enthusiasm going into it, but I still wanted to see it, and now I have, and now I probably won't ever again. But also I should just toss out there, I saw this as a double feature. It was a my fiance's friend's birthday, and she works in the film industry, more specifically television, but she's trying to become a writer actually. And she, as a result, she is very enthusiastic about film and television. And for her birthday, she wanted to take us all to see Gladiator 2 and Wicked in the same
All right.
day. So we had a lunch break and then we went to the next movie. I don't know if it played better or worse in that fashion, but I just figured I'd share that story about how I ended up seeing Gladiator 2.
Yeah, you did the
Um,
Glicked.
we did the Glicked. We totally did. Not my plan, but we did it. So beside that, though, we have our first Criterion release of the month, and as we tend to say here at Catching Up on Cinema, if it's part of the Criterion collection, it's probably worth your time. And I want to say this film is most definitely in that category. The Wages of Fear from 1953 is getting a 4K release. Now, Brad, you're in the camp where you feel this is the superior film between this and Sorcerer, correct?
Oh boy, I don't know if I want to take that stance. They're I love them both. I love them both. And I had just watched them both for the first time back to back. So I mean I can definitely see why people would prefer Sorcerer. I think it's probably the direction is stronger. It's a little bit meaner of a film, and I like that. But I don't know. I watched them back to back, and so this one might have gotten the bump just because it was the one I watched first. If I were to watch them again, rewatch them, I probably would say Sorcerer. But I think they're both amazing movies. And one thing to note with this, I actually own The Wages of Fear on Criterion Blu-ray. I got it somewhere behind me back here. Let's see here. Pull it up. Here we go. Wages of Fear. And I personally think the new cover is much stronger. It's like way more indicative of what the film actually is. Because this kind of, if you haven't seen the film, it doesn't really tell you all that much. But interesting that apparently, now this is according to the Blu-ray.com review. Apparently, the new 4K is actually a different cut of the film than this one right here.
Oh, really?
So yeah, this is it says the combo pack release includes French studio TF1's recent 4K restoration and reconstruction of The Wages of Fear. This 4K restoration reinstates approximately 5 minutes of additional footage previously unseen in America.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's
That's
kind of a
really
big
big
deal.
news. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for digging that up because that's really big news.
I mean, it's things like that where, the Criterion Blu-ray looks quite good, and this isn't one where I'd immediately jump up to, upgrade. But, if it's a new cut of the film, that kind of might push it a little higher on my to buy list.
Okay. Yeah, I've not actually seen The Wages of Fear, but I do know it's an ongoing debate between which is the superior version of the same story. Um, I have seen Sorcerer though, and I
Hmm.
do own just a cheapo Blu-ray of it. Was it William Friedkin, I believe?
Yep.
uh,
Yep.
very impressed with that film. Really enjoy Sorcerer. Like you say, the aforementioned meanness. You say it's even worse than The Wages of Fear. It's most certainly on display in Sorcerer. The procedural aspects of Sorcerer are very fascinating to me. Just how it
Hmm.
has almost like a documentary kind of vibe to it, where you're an observer and you get to see all the laborious detail that goes into like every methodical process that goes into this procedure they're trying to carry out. Very interesting, to the point that I would be really interested to check out The Wages of Fear
Yeah.
because
Oh, I
it does
definitely
have an
think,
excellent reputation.
yeah, I think they're both amazing movies. And I feel like, in the conversation of, remakes and originals that are better or worse than, that whole thing.
Yeah,
Uh, in terms of both of them being amazing, like I feel like this has got to be up there in terms of a remake and an original that are both like phenomenal films. Trying to think of another one. Like I haven't seen The Thing from Another World, but I think you could throw that one in there with The Thing. Probably both. I would assume both great movies. I've seen The Thing, obviously, but yeah, just thinking of remakes and originals where they're both classics, and this has got to be one of the few.
yeah. I don't think there are that many where they're thought of on as being on the same level. Like
Yeah.
usually there is like a clear cut winner between the two.
Hmm.
Um, But yeah, that's an exciting release. I did not know that it included a different version of it, but that'll be a selling point for quite a lot of people. Beside that, we have a 4K Steelbook release of Katsuhiro Otomo's Akira. We've already talked about it countless times, so no reason to get into it here. But speaking of films that are part that should be part of the Criterion Collection, Brad, Craven the Hunter is getting a
Yeah.
4K and a Blu-ray release on this day. Um, is this going to be the major release of the whole month, Brad? Or are the folks gonna is it Morbin time all over again?
People want Craven, and they're
They
craving for
crave
Craven.
Craven.
Yeah, and this is the one they're finally gonna get. No, yeah, I did see this in theaters. It was my sworn duty. I had to do it, and it was quite bad. But it I was hopeful in some regards that it might be good because I do like the director. I think J.C. Chandor is the guy's name, and
Yeah, he has a great track record.
yeah, up until this point, he was maybe not like absolute bangers, but he was kind of shooting, he was batting 1,000, I think. But yeah, this one was pretty bad, pretty boring. And like not, it was the thing where it's not as bad as Madam Web in like a fun way. Like Madam Web is bad, but I actually kind of had a blast with it because it is just so weird and loopy and bad. This one has a little bit of that, but it's mostly just really boring.
Yeah, I have yet to watch this one, Craven the Hunter. I had to. It was part of my job, Brad. I had to watch Madam Web because I was doing an editing gig for Red Cow Arcade / Entertainment, and I made it my own burden. I volunteered to edit the Madam Web discussion, the review of it, without having seen the film. So not only did I have to watch the film, I had to comb through every minute of footage of it to gather clips, like
Mhm.
relevant clips to support their discussion. And yeah, it's not very good. I would argue that, like you said, it is fascinating at the very least. Like Madam Web actually is interesting
Yeah.
in that you can tell there's something wrong with it, but there's also like the slightest bit of ambition behind the filmmaking. Like
Mhm.
I don't know if anybody talks about this, but is it whatever the device is that they use for eye exams? The camera one, camera two thing that they do, where they flip the lens and they ask you which one looks better.
Mhm.
That effect, that lens flipping effect, is a common transition, like scene transition in the film, and it, like spoilers, that the character ends up going blind at a certain point in the narrative, and in fact there is an eye exam that occurs at a certain point in the narrative. So it's a small consideration that there was like somebody gave it enough of a fuck to try something in
Yeah.
the movie. Like it's small things like that stand out like upon much closer examination. Not a good movie. Craven though, I just oof. Like I heard, aside from maybe a couple of action beats, it almost kind of sounded like the Bill Skarsgård Crow movie, where it's like
Mhm.
there's like one or two action scenes that are passable that you could easily throw up on YouTube as like a hype package, and then the rest of the thing is just a fucking mess.
Yeah, that's kinda yeah, they're pretty similar. I would say I'd give the edge to The Crow because this one has a couple action sequences that are okay.
Okay,
I actually think The Crow highlight action sequence is actually borderline very good. Like, it was
it's the
kinda
theater, right?
yeah, it was kind of a thing where I was sitting there and I was just, like, barely keeping my eyes open, and then this action sequence hit, and I was just like, Did I is this a different movie? Did I doze off and this is the next showing here? What's going on?"
No, what
Um,
probably happened, Brad, is that they got the previs team, they got the stunt crew together to make that scene to present to like the studio or to investors or something
yeah,
as like a proof of concept, and then they tried to build a 90-minute movie around it, and we're like,
sold.
oh yeah, exactly. It's like, I've seen enough. That 3 minutes is all we need.
Yep, yep,
We throw that up on the YouTube, and all the kids, all the Fortniters, they'll show up. They'll show up for the crow. They'll come out for the crow.
yep.
And yeah, it seems like they tried to do that with Craven, this Aaron Taylor Johnson kid. He's a handsome fellow. He's got a much older wife. He's been working in the film industry a long time. a lot like forces beyond my understanding seem to believe he's the guy. He's got the juice. He should be James Bond. I don't know if that is the case, but you know, he's got those abs. He's trying to do all these movies that showcase him. I think he's good in small doses. Like he was actually very good in Bullet Train.
Hmm.
He was actually pretty good in The Fall Guy. Uh, I don't know if he can carry a fucking film though. Is the
No.
thing.
Yeah, definitely
It's just
not.
flat out no.
No, well, just not a leading man, but Nocturnal Animals is another one. He's quite good in that. That's more of a dramatic role, and
Yeah,
I like him in that. But yeah, just anything where he's the lead doesn't really work.
that's. I mean, I haven't followed his career very extensively, but I have noticed that that seems to be the case. Is that he seems to be better at being that guy over there as opposed to being the guy that you're stuck with for 2 whole hours. It's interesting because there's guys like Tom Hardy who uh, seems most comfortable being the highlight, like being the spice, as opposed to being the central figure. But then he does both. I mean, he also
Yeah.
did Locke and stuff, where he's you're stuck in a car with Tom Hardy for 2 hours, so he can do both. But
Mhm.
I don't think of him as being on the same like of the same caliber as like a Tom Hardy. But yeah, I don't have much to say about Craven that hasn't already been said, other than that that face replace AI shot that occurs in the movie. I had to look that one up because I was curious. And folks, if you haven't seen it, it's worth a look because it could be indicative of the future of cinema, like
Mhm.
the future of reshoots. It's horrendous. It looks like a jib jab, Brad. Like if you
Yeah.
get the reference.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's bad.
Yeah, folks, if you don't get the reference, essentially what happened was they needed an actress to say a line of dialogue, and they decided she needed to be on screen when this line of dialogue occurs. So they took what appears to be almost like a still image of her and it kind of semi animated her face to make it appear that she's saying the line that she never actually said on camera during production. It's terrifying. Like it's like that should not be.
Yeah. It's a little uncomfortable. It's probably the most interesting thing about the movie, though. To be honest, I mean,
I mean, it's the future of cinema, Brad. Is like,
yeah.
and all like any news, good or bad, is good news. Any coverage is good coverage. And from what I understand, Madam Web actually did very well on Netflix. And I think Craven just dropped on a streaming service pretty recently as well. So it could end up being the same case where it's like all of these horror stories that we're hearing are are getting people to click on the thing where it's like
Yeah.
I will not pay to see this, but just out of morbid curiosity, if it's free, if it's available to me, sure, I'll check out Craven the Hunter. I'll dick around on my phone with Craven on in the background or something. That's probably
Yeah.
what I'm gonna do,
Yeah.
honestly.
I want people to know, though, I paid. I was there. I was there opening
I
weekend for
paid.
these movies.
It's one of my dad's favorite things to yell. I pay. Usually while throwing a shoe.
Yeah.
So I used to say when the cable would go out on our TV, like when we were young, you'd take a slipper and you'd throw it at the TV and yell, "I pay."
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on down just ever so slightly, we have Red One coming to 4K. This is the Dwayne the Rock Johnson, current head of the TKO group slash WWE talent slash co-star of Moana. Did you see this one, Brad? I forget. Did you do a full ass review of this?
That I don't think. No, I don't think so. This was
Okay.
more of a wanted popcorn. This was just what was playing. Went and saw it. It is. I hated it. I thought it. I thought it was worse than Craven and Madam Web. I thought it was just really really bad. Not interesting. No, again, like I said when I saw it, only interesting idea that I thought it brought to the table in terms of a Christmas movie. Because the action sucks, the characters are boring. There's nothing good here. But J.K. Simmons is like a bodybuilder Santa, and I
Yeah.
did like the one idea that I was like, that's kind of clever. Is the whole thing of Santa. The reason he needs to continually have milk and cookies when he goes to these houses on Christmas is because of his calorie. He's working so hard. It's a physical, he's not the fat Santa. He's literally doing a intensive workout. He needs those calories for his workout, and however they present it or whatever. I was like, okay, that's kind of clever. I want more of that. That's a clever twist on a classic Christmas trope. But that was it. Other than that, it was horrendous.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like we're at this period in movie trends where the holiday action movie is just expected now. Where like we had Violent Night not that long ago. We had Silent Night, I think, also was came out around Christmas time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a thing that happened. That was a
Hmm.
thing that Brad and I reviewed.
Yeah.
Two of the only human beings on the planet who gave a fuck about Silent Night, not Silent Night, Deadly Night. That's a different story altogether, a much more famous story altogether. But yeah, this one, Red One, I saw not even a full trailer, just a snippet of it, and I was like, "Fuck no!" just no. The story
Yeah.
of Santos El Halper and Santa Claus, who presumably, I'm just guessing, Brad. Does Santa get like kidnapped or like removed from the plot early on or something?
Yeah, I believe he
Yeah,
gets kidnapped is the driving factor, and they have to find him.
yeah. The story of Santos El Halper, and somewhere Chris Evans gets involved.
Yep, unfortunately. He is what his career and his choices lately have been big. You look at him and you look at Sebastian Stan. I have said this before,
Ooh.
but man, 5 years ago, I would have been like, Chris Evans, he's got chops. He's got charisma. He was in Knives Out, and he can be good. And then I was like, Sebastian Stan, this guy, and I don't know about this guy. And my opinion on those two have flipped so hard in the last year. Sebastian Stan rocks, and Chris Evans is just not doing it for me anymore.
Yeah, Sebastian Stan has had like a really impactful couple of years. I always think of him as that guy from that Male Witch movie where they throw water balls at each other at a barn or whatever. I can't remember the name of this fucking movie, but it's a thing that happened where there's a bunch
Okay.
of dude witches on a swim team, and then they have a fight in a barn at the end, and they throw like energy balls made of water at each other. It's
Okay.
important to catalog these things, Brad. It's important to know where people come from and what they've done because you can always hold it up to them and be like, "So what about this one? Like, what was the story here?"
The
And it's like,
Covenant.
there you go, there you go.
There we go.
That was a thing that happened.
I
But
gotta
yeah,
check
he
this
has
out.
come into his own. Like he has arrived. He's doing quite well. I for one have some enthusiasm about Thunderbolts. I mean, his involvement in the project is probably a quite a boon to it, honestly. But yeah, it is funny to see that between Cap and Bucky, like at the time, he was kind of the afterthought, and then Chris Evans was expected to go on to bigger and better things. Although I will point out that a lot of my fiance, a lot of her friends, like immediately latched on to Bucky, like immediately latched on to Sebastian Stan. In terms of
They
like hot
knew.
Marvel guys, a lot of the ladies seem to favor Bucky above many others.
Well, I'm a one to admit when I was wrong, and I was so anti-Stan for so long, and I was wrong. They were right, and I was wrong, and I'll admit it.
It's the Whoopi effect, Brad. It's the Whoopi, where it's like it's the Loki, it's the Bucky, it's the guy who's like he's got problems, he's all fucked
Mhm.
up, but maybe you can fix him,
Yeah.
or he'll be abusive, he'll be horrible to you, but maybe there's a heart in there somewhere. It'll only come out like twice a year or something, but like he. He's good looking. He's got some problems, but we can work it out. We
Mhm.
can figure it
Mhm.
out. Bucky can work. We can make Bucky work.
Yeah.
But yeah, Chris Evans directed something not that long ago, right? I can't
That
remember
sounds
it.
familiar.
I
Oh,
think I seem
yeah.
to remember. Yeah.
Yep, because in my segment, movie roulette, where we, get a random movie assigned to us, that was one of my things we spun, and I vetoed it. I said, I'm out. I'm
Fuck
out." Yeah,
that.
exactly. I'm done. I'm not watching that shit. Sorry.
Oh well.
Um, yeah.
So yeah, Red One can't be bothered with. Moving on though, Den of Thieves 2. Pantera.
Now
Uh,
we're getting to
now
the
we're
good
talking.
stuff, baby. Ah, have you seen Den of Thieves? I can't remember if it was logged on your letterboxd when I logged it this week.
uh, I mean, I've only been up to date with my letterbox, not nearly as long as you, Brad. But yes, I actually have seen Den of Thieves.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. It's actually pretty good.
It's okay. Like I wouldn't say it's good. It feels reminiscent of too many other movies. Like it has
Yeah.
like a bit of like Training Day. It has a bit of Heat. It has a bit of like Street Kings, if you know that one, the Keanu
Hmm.
Reeves movie where he's a prick, which is kind of funny because Keanu is hard to view as a prick, but
Yeah.
they like
Yeah.
aggressively try to make him seem like a really nasty guy, and it's like it just feels wrong, man. But yeah, I wouldn't say it's like an exceptional crime thriller or
No.
anything like
No.
that, but it checks a lot of boxes. Like if you're in the mood for what it's offering, it's a fine way to spend an afternoon, I guess.
In terms of like a January release action movie,
Yeah.
because I remember this came out and I was like, that looks terrible. I'm not watching that. And then, when I saw they're coming out, they put out a sequel. I'm like, I gotta go and back and watch Den of Thieves. And I was just kind of pleasantly surprised. Like, the whole thing it's 2 hours and 20 minutes. And I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna watch but surprised, like the whole last hour and a half is all the heist. And I don't know. I thought it was paced pretty well. And there are some kind of, maybe unintentionally bad moments regarding Gerard Butler and his personal life early on in the film. But I think one of the reviews on Letterboxd describes it as heat by the way of Monster Energy. And I kind of agree. I think that's kind of a good description of it. And as kind of just like a trashy, somewhat bad action movie with a heist element, I kind of enjoyed it. And it's kind of thing where it's like, if I'm in the mood for something kind of trashy, I could see myself going back to that for sure.
Yeah, you crush a Monster Energy drink, you get some Cheeto dust on your hot Cheeto dust
Mhm.
on your fingers when you pick up the Heat Blu-ray and you put it in the machine, and all of a sudden it transforms into Den of
Yeah.
Thieves 2,
Yep.
Pantera.
Yep. Absolutely. Um,
Yeah, I actually would watch this. This would be like a lazy afternoon movie for me. I didn't get much of anything from the trailer for it. It just looked like a very loosely connected sequel where it's just like let's take some people who are already in a movie together and put them in an exotic heist movie because exotic heist movies sell internationally quite well as far as I understand. And honestly that was a big part of the vibe I got from the marketing for the movie was that this is aimed at demographics that are not necessarily me. This is aimed at a global audience
mhm.
where it probably did just fine, probably did quite well. um, I will point out that Pablo Schreiber was in that first Den of Thieves movie, and he's not a household name by any means. But he is like a seemingly a go-to when it comes to casting tough guy military types. I did like him in that first Den of Thieves movie, and I assume he's not in this one, which is a bit of a shame. But this is Gerard Butler's career right now. This is what he does. He seems quite comfortable doing it because every once in a while he seems to do these movies, and they turn out halfway decent, like surprisingly so. Maybe it's because the expectations are set so low, but like Plane, for instance, was another one of those that everybody mocked it, everybody laughed at the title and stuff. And then it came out, and like the people who saw it were like, it's actually not half bad.
Yeah.
And in fact, I
Yeah.
did catch a couple of clips of some action beats in it, and I was like, there was like love and care put into these action scenes. Like somebody gave a fuck. Somebody loved it.
I am right now kind of like just in the mood for that. Like, I kind of like what Gerard Butler's doing. I like what he's throwing down. Just kind of like knowing that what you're doing is not going to be high art, but just doing these kind of mid-budget action movies that are kind of throwbacks to a different era. I'm into it. I'm into it. And, um, you know, uh, we didn't really have that this year. I feel like Flight Plan was trying to hop on that zone, and that was a failure on multiple levels. Don't even need to get into that, but just say the movie sucked, and Gerard Butler is way better than Mark Wahlberg. I'm putting all my chips onto his basket.
Yeah, we need Gerard Butler to do a team up with Scott Adkins. They're both from the UK,
Let's do it.
and they both seem to be thoroughly in the red box lane of entertainment these days. Just make it happen. Why not? I would actually love to see that happen. It just makes too much fucking sense. Um, Sing Sing, Brad, is getting a digipack release. Are you familiar with this one? Because I am not. I am not.
Yeah, I actually watched the first 6 minutes of it last night,
No.
and I thought it was quite good. Probably not smart of me to start it at 11:30 p.m. Because I did immediately fall asleep. But I will be reviewing this upcoming week on my show. Just reason I'm reviewing it this week is it not only came out physically this month, but just came into Max, so you can stream it on Max. But Coleman Domingo is in it, and he was nominated for Best Actor. I think he's like, not that I've seen him in a ton of stuff, but whenever I see him, he's amazing. And I think it was also nominated for Best Screenplay. So kind of had some Oscar buzz at the end of the year. I know a lot of people said it was very good. And 6 minutes so far. I mean, didn't blow me away, but I'm in. So I'll report back.
Okay, very interesting. Moving on down though, hey, we have Judas and the Black Messiah getting a 4K release. This came out in 2021, and in fact, this is one of the earlier movies I think that you and I reviewed together.
We reviewed this?
We did, Brad. We did.
Well, that's great to hear. I don't even remember reviewing it, let alone reviewing it with you, but that's great to hear.
Yeah, no, I remember because I think you picked me to review it with you because none of your friends probably would have. So you're like, I gotta get
right.
like this is a big award season movie. I need to talk about it. Who can I get to do that with me?
And now it's coming back to me. It was one of the HBO Max day and date releases, and my goal was to review all of those. So that was another reason why we chose this one.
Yeah, and it was very, very good.
Yeah, it is good.
I do remember it being an excellent movie. Not one I probably would have gone out of my way to see, but hey, that's part of the fun of podcasting. It gives you excuses to check out things you otherwise wouldn't. Beside that, we also have Paddington 2 getting a 4K release. I presume that's been out on 4K before. Some of the most beloved movies of all time, those Paddington films.
I think this is first time on 4K, I believe.
No shit.
From what I'm seeing here.
Wow. Well, I know Paddington 1 and 2. I can't speak for Paddington in Peru, but Paddington 1 and 2, holy shit. Paddington's got some fans. Like, people love these movies. I've not seen them, though.
Oh, I would highly recommend them.
Yeah, no, I hear excellent things, which is neat. So I'm going to kick it over to you, Brad. Are there any titles from this week that jump out at you? I can scroll on down if you'd like.
This is tough. I mean, Play It Cool is an Arrow release. I don't know anything about it.
From the text is a Japanese film.
Yes.
That's all I know.
Yeah, same here. Assault of the Party Nerds, which is from Culture Shock releasing. Comes with a Blu-ray and a CD soundtrack, so that's cool.
Sweet.
But yeah, I mean, there's not that much else. You got another Kino Film Noir, The Dark Side of Cinema. What do we got here? That is 24, I believe, 24th volume of this collection.
That's incredible that they're keeping up that streak. Like, who would have thought that there were that many films that needed to be collected in these noir sets that they're putting out? But hey, that's part of like where we're at with physical media releases these days is preservation. So they're doing good work, these Kino boys and girls.
Yep, I've got the first one. I'm hoping to catch up on the other 23 at some point. But I should probably finish the movies from the first one. I only watched one of the movies from the first set, so I need to, I got some catching up to do.
Well, first you got to check out the next 114 minutes of Sing Sing.
Well, that's the first stop. That's the next stop.
Beside that, we have a Count of Monte Cristo from 2024, yet another adaptation of the novel, with a certified fresh stamp on it. I know nothing about this particular adaptation, but it is a classic story that is often imitated or replicated without using the branding, without using the name. So that's neat that they made another one of those. We have a couple of interesting covers here. I don't know anything about these movies, but Egg from 2005. I'm not sure if that's good, but it's an interesting cover.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
Same goes for this Coming Soon from 2008. It appears to be Thai. I'm hovering my mouse over the title, and it has Thai script in it, from what I can see.
It looks
Uh,
like they're both from Error 44s, error, or however you say Error 44444, Error
oh, okay.
4444, Error 4444. However you pronounce the name of that company, but they're both from that. And is the one below there
Deform Collection.
is that Error 44s as well? I think yes, yes. So
Yeah, so Coming Soon appears to be Thai just based on the script. I'm not saying I can read Thai, but I can recognize it. And Deform Collection appears to be Japanese films. So I presume Egg is also foreign, perhaps Asian origin of some sort.
yeah, I
Uh,
think that's what they specialize in.
Gotcha. Also, I don't know the nature of this, but I would assume a documentary. We have The Power of Myth from 1988. This is a Joseph Campbell book, presumably adapted to documentary. Interesting if you're into Campbellian stuff like that. I dabbled with it back in the day, not so much these days, but I think I'm about good for this week. So you want to move on, Brad?
Yeah, let's keep her moving.
Okay. So let's head on down. And we're going to skip these because these are concert videos and such that, of course, they have their fan bases, but Brad and I are generally not among them. So our next proper release date here occurs on March 11th. And right out the gate, we have a Criterion 4K release of Thief, which is a very early Michael Mann film, but also a beloved Michael Mann film. This film has a sterling reputation, and I actually feel kind of bad that I haven't seen it. I've almost bought this movie so many fucking times, and now that it's on 4K, perhaps now is the time. But yeah, this is heralded as like one of the better Michael Mann movies that's out there.
Yeah, I love Thief. It's got to be up it top 3 Michael Mann for me for sure. Yeah, James Caan is amazing in it, and Tangerine Dream score is awesome, and very you can tell very influential film as well. Like anybody who is a fan of Drive should check out Thief.
Yeah,
And your opinion on Drive may suffer as a result. So just be forewarned. If you want to hold Drive in your mind with the highest regard, maybe don't check out Thief because you may be uh, disappointed on how much Drive borrows from Thief. Lovingly borrows, but still borrows. But yeah, it's a beautiful film, and certainly will look great on 4K. I already have this on Blu-ray, so I'm not in the biggest rush to upgrade, but because I love the film so much, I'm sure I probably will at some point. I'm kind of in the Criterion sales doing maybe one 4K upgrade per order, because that way could still get a mix of new films that I don't own or I haven't seen, but you do want to upgrade those favorites. Like I just finally upgraded Blue Velvet in the last Criterion sale. I bought the 4K of Blue Velvet. So kind of my thought process there.
yeah, I like that system where it's like you want something new, but you also want something renewed.
Hmm.
So I like that. I would do that myself if I was more on top of hitting up those sales. But yeah, Thief, I really want to see it. I'm a huge fan of crime thrillers and early Michael Mann. His style, his aesthetics, his sights and sounds, his vibes are impeccable. So I feel like this movie would really, really work for me. So now that it's on 4K, maybe it's time for me to pull the trigger on it. Besides that, though, we have Daylight from 1996 getting a 4K release, inexplicably so. Have you seen Daylight, Pratt?
I have not. I'm gonna have to go to you for the expertise on this one.
So this one, it's the Poseidon Adventure, but in a tunnel on the East Coast. So it's a disaster thriller, which was the style at the time, being as it was the mid 90s. Disaster, high concept action thrillers and disaster films were en vogue. And Daylight very comfortably fits into that category. A huge part of the novelty factor for you, Brad, is going to be our director, Rob Cohen, who not everybody's going to know that name off the top of their head, but you probably would because he directed The Hurricane Heist.
Yeah, I almost said my man, but I believe he got canceled, so I'm not gonna say that. But Yeah, Rob, he did the first Fast and Furious, right?
He
The Fast
did.
and the Furious.
He did.
Yeah.
As I said, inexplicably receiving a 4K release, being as yes, as far as I understand, he has been canceled.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
his movie, his Daylight, is the beloved Daylight, lives on 4K. In addition to that, though, he was very busy in the '90s. He also did Dragon, the Bruce Lee story, which is melodramatic as all get out and a complete bullshit retelling of the story of Bruce Lee's life, but has one of the more famous scores actually from that era. Every uplifting academic, like every academia drama that came out in the '90s, of which we were inundated with, Brad. Like think like Dead Poet Society, that kind of shit, or
Hmm.
the Emperor's Club, if you remember that one. Any of those kind of movies, those like saintly teacher movies that we were just drowning in the '90s. The score for Dragon the Bruce Lee story was often used as the trailer music, and also Dragonheart. Rob Cohen also did Dragonheart in the '90s. As far as I know, the downward trend for him started with Stealth, which was a very, very, very expensive and not very good movie, but has some novelty factor in its badness. Uh, Daylight it's nobody's best work, but if you're in the mood for like a Poseidon thriller esque like adventure slash disaster thriller with pretty decent production values, you could do a lot worse. Um,
Yeah.
Not a movie I need to own, but a movie that I have seen at least twice, maybe three times.
And just in case anybody has any question, I mean, I don't dive this deep into my purchasing thoughts, but there are no new bonus features featuring Rob Cohen, all archival. So he was
Yeah,
not saying he's not going to get a cut from this release, but he was not brought in for any new commentary tracks or anything like that. It's all archival.
yeah. He probably picked up the phone and called the studio and was like, "You want to bring me in?" It's like, "No,
We're good. We got your old
we're good.
commentary. We're good.
We're good, Rob. Just stay home. We're good. The movie can sell itself."
Yeah.
Beside that, we have a 4K release from Synapse Films of Trick or Treat from 1986. I know this movie as being the subject of a review on the Red Letter Media YouTube channel. The guys from Wisconsin reviewed this one. It looks fun. Like there were an astonishing number of heavy metal horror movies in the '80s, and this, as far as I understand, fits very very comfortably into that like very short-lived subgenre. I think it features some cameos from some heavy metal talent as well, maybe like Gene Simmons or Ozzy Osbourne or something like that. Not a
Mhm.
movie I would need to ever rush out to see or anything, but if you're into this sort of thing, the Red Letter Media guys did a very good job of covering it and lampooning it.
Yeah. Yeah, for a long time this was like not on Blu-ray, or at least it was out of print or whatever. So I think it got a Blu-ray release not too long ago, and now it's 4K. And this is the standard 4K because it did have a limited edition that I think sold out on Synapse's website.
Oh, okay, very
Yeah.
interesting.
I thought about getting the deluxe one, but it was like 60 some dollars, and I was like, eh.
Yeah, that's asking a bit much for a movie that you don't even think it's probably going to be very good.
Yeah.
It would have to be really funny. Like it would have to play really well to a like a pizza and beer crowd. Like
Yeah.
watching it with your friends and being able to laugh at it or something. But as far as I know, it's kind of average in that category too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
probably not worth it. Also, I want to say that the novelty factor of the heavy metal aesthetic from the '80s. I think you kind of have to be into that. Like you either need to genuinely like that or be able to laugh at it in order to like get any sort of entertainment value out of something like this. So if you're not either of those things, probably a waste of time and money, honestly.
Mhm.
I'll kick it over to you, Brad. I'll let you lead for a bit. What are some things from March 11th that jump out at you?
Well, I will mention, I don't know much about it, but the Golden Fern, right next to it from 1963. This is from Deaf Crocodile.
Oh,
And just an excuse, I guess, to highlight Deaf Crocodile in that I don't have any of their releases. But they put out some pretty incredible, international under the radar stuff. Like this one is a Czech film. Says the description: Czech fairy tale about a shepherd who finds a golden fern with magical powers. He can ensure his continued happiness if he does the right thing, but will he? And yeah, Deaf Crocodile. They've been putting out a lot of these, foreign Eastern European movies that I've never heard of from decades ago. And I know the label has some dedicated fans. It used to be a Vinegar Syndrome sub label, but they've now branched out, and I believe they sell exclusively on Diabolic DVD's website now, is who they're partnered with. So
Oh,
good that they can keep on pumping this stuff out. I'd like to get into their label, but it's kind of hard to jump in without having really any sort of, it's great that these films are getting preserved and put out, but do I go with the Czech fairy tale or do I go with the Lithuanian fairy tale? I don't know. Like, where do I start? I don't know.
yeah, it would be nice to have a guide.
Yeah.
I feel the same way.
Hmm.
Um, Interesting to note, it's a black and white film, so the golden fern, you have to take your word for it. Like it could just be a fern that
Yes.
they're holding up and saying it's gold. Like you wouldn't be able to tell either way.
That is a good point. That is a good
The
point.
prop department had a really easy time with that golden
Yeah.
fern.
That's smart. That's using the budget well. That's smart.
We have Revenge of the Radioactive Reporter from 1990, getting a 4K deluxe edition disc from TerrorVision. Now, is that a label, Brad, that you have experience with?
Yeah, I've got a few TerrorVision discs. Another one that was a Vinegar Syndrome sub-label who branched off to do their own thing. And I like TerrorVision quite a bit. I don't have a ton of their discs, but I like supporting them. And they've put out some movies that, again, many of them are things I haven't heard of, but kind of similar to Vinegar Syndrome. I like that they kind of put out some stuff. And the one movie, Door, which was I think it was a Japanese movie, and it was kind of a weird thriller about door-to-door salesman who he gets his hand slammed in a door at this lady's apartment, and he breaks his fingers, and he starts to terrorize her and vows revenge, and it becomes kind of a sort of a stalker movie. And I was like, oh, that sounds like a cool premise. I kind of like that. And the movie it didn't blow me away, but those kind of under the radar sort of things, cool that they're putting out. Don't know much about Revenge of the Radioactive Reporter, but I will say those who are in that camp, there was a lot of excitement for this one. So,
I mean, there must have been, because the 4K deluxe edition
mhm,
treatment, like this, perhaps this was like a kind of like Trick or Treat, like a hard to find film or
yeah.
something, like an unearthed film of some sort. Yeah, I don't know much about it either. It just the cover gives off some like Toxic Avenger vibes, but I don't know a thing about it. Maybe I should look up a trailer because it could be interesting.
Hmm.
Um, Moving on, we have a Dudley Moore movie called Best Defense from 1984, which also features Eddie Murphy. Interesting. Never heard of this one. Uh, Samurai Fiction from 1998 is getting a Blu-ray release from Media Blasters, who I've mentioned this several times on the podcast, specialize in Japanese media from the late 90s, early 2000s. Kind of when there was a large wave of import cinema being put out on DVD at the time. I've not seen this one. My parents liked it, my mom in particular. I know it features Tomoyasu Hotei, who is a musician primarily, kind of a fascinating genre blending musician. Who there's a piece of music, Brad, that was utterly ruined by being utilized by advertisers. It's called Battles Without Honor and Humanity. It is a piece of score, as far as I understand, composed by Tomoyasu Hotei, that is in Kill Bill Part One. It's the piece of music that plays when we're introduced to, I forget the name of the building where she fights the crazy 88s or whatever. When we're touring that building, like
Hmm.
when it's that introductory like gliding crane shot or whatever that shows the whole landscape. It's the piece of music that plays over that whole sequence, and it was used in so many fucking commercials around that time that it's like a lot of Journey songs where it's like all I think of now is Asian grandmas at the native casino in my in my neck of the woods, because that's what they use for all the commercials for like Tulalip Casino out here in the Pacific Northwest, and it completely ruined all of those songs for me.
Well, I
But
mean, at least it didn't ruin any good bands for you.
ah, got him.
No, I'm joking. I got no issues with Journey. They got a few good tunes. They're all right.
a few, a
They
few.
got a few.
Yeah, I'm not a Journey fan, but they do have a couple of songs I can get behind. But yeah, Samurai Fiction I've heard is it's very fun. Like you can tell from the cover art that it's a little bit of a genre blender where it is a samurai film, but like this the soundtrack. I remember my mom saying that there's like slide guitar and like a saw like being used as an instrument on the score and stuff. So we're doing something a little different with it. Um, anyway, though, Wildcat in 2023 is being put out by Oscilloscope Pictures. Do you know them, Brad?
Boy, the name is ringing a bell, but I can't think of why.
Taking a look right now, it looks like they put out The Love Witch, which, as far as I know, somebody on that production got canceled. I couldn't tell you who. Um, Rare Exports they put out, which is the Killer Santa Claus movie from some Scandinavian country. It looks like they specialize in indie cinema.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
no, I don't know Oscilloscope. But the Outcast, that cover art is very striking. I don't even
yeah.
know
I
what
do
I'm
like
looking
that.
at, but it's fascinating to look at. It's also a Deaf Crocodile disc, by the way.
Mm.
Uh, Mysterious Castle in the Carpathians from 1981 is getting a Blu-ray release. I'm reaching for things that are interesting me, Brad.
Another deaf crocodile. If that makes any difference to you, I didn't realize how many they had this month.
Yeah, big month
Or
for
this
Deaf
week.
Crocodile.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of there's not a ton this week. I think this is a standard release, I'm guessing, but we have Inside the Mind of Coffin Joe.
Ah,
If you scroll down, which is an Arrow release, and um, I remember when they announced it, and I'm assuming it was like the special deluxe edition. Maybe this is that, I don't know, but I think Coffin Joe. I want to say he was like a South American like horror, yeah, a Brazilian kind of,
yeah.
you know,
I think I remember Juno has a scene devoted to talking about the legacy of Coffin Joe or
okay,
something.
yeah,
I
and
think that was the case.
I thought just the set itself and the idea of the set, and I was a fan of that. I wanted to check it out. So that's one I would maybe someday like to dip my toes into.
Yeah, as far as I know, they're like what is it, a Grand Guignol
Hmm.
style horror movies where it's kind of like Terrifier or something, where the whole point of it is just to exhibit like grand spectacles of gore as a form of entertainment.
Hmm.
But obviously, from 1964 to 2008, it's a beloved icon of horror from a specific region. So maybe not as widely known internationally, but definitely well known.
Yeah.
So last one, I guess, from this week that I can be bothered to talk about. By the way, we're skipping over a lot of anime because, as tends to be the case, there's a fuck ton of it every month, and neither Brad nor I are really in the know when it comes to what anime is worth getting excited about or which aren't. So we tend to skip over it or gloss over it. I'll highlight ones that I know or that I have personal investment in, but for the most part, it's all just color and noise to me. Um, Customs Frontline, I will point out here on the bottom right. This is a Chinese film. And as a result, of course, it's being put out by Well Go because they do all the Asian movies, basically all the blockbuster Asian cinema from China, Japan, and Korea. Well Go basically seems to license all of it. This is from director Herman Yao, who actually a couple of his films, his more noteworthy films from early in his filmography, were put out by Vinegar Syndrome. Uh, the was it the Untold Story? I don't remember if that was Vinegar Syndrome, but the Ebola Syndrome was most certainly him.
Mm-hmm.
So he was a Category 3 filmmaker from Hong Kong in the 90s. Basically, if you don't get the reference, Category 3, dear listeners and viewers, was basically like the equivalent of like rated X by like US standards. So like really really hardcore, like brutal ugly cinema from the 90s. Um, and in recent years, kind of similar to the Japanese filmmaker Takashi Miike, kind of similar to his trajectory, Herman Yao and Takashi Miike these days are the people making blockbuster cinema, like the most mainstream of action, like action cinema, basically. So they went from being in the gutter to now they're making like the most mainstream, highest budgeted movies that those countries produce. Uh, this is starring Nicholas Tse and also Jackie Chung's in there. Um, as far as I know, it's just blatantly like a Chinese military propaganda film. It did have a pretty good action team working on it, though, to the point that I'm like kind of interested in checking it out. But I can only choke down so many of these from year to year because like the jingoism is on full display. The saber rattling going on in a lot of these films is difficult to stomach sometimes, along with like the action thriller aspects of it. It's like it's a package deal. You can only get one with the other. So not sure if I'm going to be checking this out. I'm definitely not buying it, but perhaps I'll watch it someday.
Hmm.
Um, Scrolling on down though, these are all titles that have been talked about before or are concert videos, so I'll skip March 14th. But March 18th, this was the big day in March 2025 for me personally. Our first release out the gate is a very unexpected 4K release of Godzilla vs. Biollante from 1989. I've talked about this so many times with Brad, so I won't prattle on about it too much. But if you're not familiar, dear listeners and or viewers, this is the second of the Heisei era of the Godzilla franchise, which began with Godzilla 1984, and this was the film that came after it, five whole fucking years after it, by the way, and in fact acts as a direct sequel to it, which is not something that happens in very many Godzilla movies. I mentioned this before to Brad. This movie is very special to me, being as for a very long time, up until Godzilla 2000, so 1989 to the year 2000, like a third of my life, basically, or something along those lines. Um, this was the last Godzilla movie to arrive on U.S. shores in any capacity, official capacity. This got a VHS release from, I think, HBO, actually, was the distributor for it. And for that stretch of time, this was the last Godzilla movie that I, a huge Godzilla fan, had access to. And as a result, it was special. It was one that came out in my lifetime. That was the only one that came out in my lifetime that I was able to see anyway. And the arrival of this movie on U.S. shores on VHS was what prompted me to seek out bootleg tapes of the other Heisei era movies, which spanned from 1984 to 1995. I went to a comic book store with my grandma near the Costco out here in the Seattle area. And I remember seeing a bootleg VHS of Godzilla vs. Destroya, and I pleaded with her to buy it for me. It had the worst quality subtitles and imaging. It looked like complete dog shit, Brad. You could barely tell what was happening on the screen, but it was like my most precious possession at that point in my life. And it all kind of spawned from this movie, like renewing the interest that I already had in Godzilla. So personally, this is in my top five, maybe top three Godzilla movies of all time. It is odd that we are getting this from the Criterion Collection, no less, and not Godzilla 1984, being as it is a sequel to that movie. So that's why I say it's an unexpected release. It's like, okay, they put out the Showa series in a grand box set, and then no more Godzilla from Criterion for a while. And then they put out this, which is the second part of the whole next era of the franchise history. It's like, why are you starting there? Like what sort of licensing issues are going on here? Like, why would you start there? And I mean, I have to assume maybe it's because of the prestige surrounding the movie. It is well regarded as far as I know. It is a little bit of an oddity as far as I know, like among the franchise though. It does stand apart from the rest of the Godzilla series. It feels very different.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I bought this day one. Have I watched the first scene of it? Haven't watched the whole thing yet. I've seen this movie a million fucking times, but I just wanted to see the image quality, and I was very, very happy.
Yep. So apparently, I don't know if you know, maybe this is obvious. I'm not sure, but the restoration was not done by Criterion themselves. It was done by Toho. So there's some people online. There's a few minor complaints. There's some edge enhancements going on here apparently.
Mhm.
But from what I can tell, everybody does agree that it looks miles better than it ever has in terms of the previous old Blu-ray releases. So overall, yeah, it seems like it's a pretty great looking disc.
Yeah, and it includes a lot of behind the scenes features, which are actually very important for this movie in particular. Because for whatever reason, this movie was selected as like a special project for Toho. Like they went above and beyond with this movie for some reason. I couldn't tell you why, but from a creative standpoint, I think there may have been like a competition to design the monster, like a public competition of some sort. Um, I seem to remember it was like a doctor, like a dentist, or someone who submitted a sketch, and that's what they went with as the basis for the monster. There were stop motion effects that were filmed, like if kind of similar to Jurassic Park, actually, where Jurassic Park originally the CGI effects of the dinosaurs were done by Phil Tippett in stop motion as like effects tests. They did the same thing with this movie, where Biolante they weren't quite sure how they wanted to try to render the thing. They went with a full scale animatronic, like a full scale puppet, that is incredible. It's maybe the largest monster Godzilla's ever been put up against on film. Um, so those stop motion tests are on the disc, I presume. There's an alternate ending which I've seen in like really grainy footage that I presume is also on the disc. And as far as I know, there's a lot of featurettes and commentaries as well. So sounds like a great package. And speaking of great packages, Brad, beside this, we have a movie that you can actually talk about, maybe, hopefully, because I've been talking a lot just now. Rennie Harlin's Deep Blue Sea is getting the 4K treatment from Arrow. Yeah, this was also a day one purchase for me. Um,
Nice. Let's go.
I've seen this movie so many fucking times. I don't know what it was, but this and Anaconda were a couple of like animal attack monster movies that I just couldn't get enough of at that stage in my life.
Yep.
And yeah, I have a lot of enthusiasm for this trash ass film.
Yeah. This was one that was definitely on cable a lot
Yeah.
for a certain era in the mid 2000s, so I watched it a lot there. And yeah, I don't think it's an amazing movie by any means, but I do have some reverence for it, nostalgia for it, and I probably would like to pick it up. The packaging apparently is stellar from everything I've heard. Now, Trevor, I don't want to alarm you. I don't want to scare you. And again, this is all secondhand. I should say, let's just make this clear that everything I say on this this live stream, this show could be fake news. I don't know, but I'm reading these reactions in the forum. Apparently, there is a slight issue with the Atmos track on this. Um,
Oh.
apparently, and this is just what I'm seeing some people saying. I don't know how much. I've got to do a little more research to see if it's multiple people confirming it. But just somebody just says here, I listened to the end credits of the Atmos track, and it does indeed cut out abruptly in the middle of the song. That is definitely a big bleep up. He bleeped himself out. What a bunch of jackasses. How do you screw that up? And that was according to Blade Runner 2049 on Blu-ray.com in the forums there.
How am I supposed to know if his head is like a shark's fin if he doesn't say the line?
Yeah.
Like if it's not on the soundtrack, his head is like a
Yeah.
shark's fin. Damn it, Brett. LL Cool J is unkillable, by the way. I
Mhm.
don't know if he has a clause in his contract or something, but it occurred to me at a certain point in his career that LL Cool J just cannot be stopped. He cannot be killed on camera. Like, he always finds a way to make it to the end.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was
Yeah.
even in like an episode of House or something where it's like, is he gonna eat shit? It's like, no, he's LL Cool J. He can make it.
He survived. He survived.
He survives everything. And in fact, I seem to remember him doing another Rennie Harlan movie. Oh shit, maybe that could be an episode. I remember watching that with my aunt and uncle. I think it's called Mine Hunters, plural. Mind
Okay.
Hunters, Brad. Uh, it's it's schlock. Like, it's 2000s era schlock. It inexplicably ends with a fucking fist fight, like a full ass martial arts fight for no fucking reason. It's kind of like the end of that Doom movie where it's like, I did not expect this Doom movie to end with a wire work, wire foo fist fight at the end, but sure, let's watch Carl Urban fight the Rock, Demon Rock. But yeah, Mind Hunters, Brad, look into it.
Okay. All right. All
Yeah,
right.
Christian Slater shows up, and I won't spoil things, but if you've seen Deep Blue Sea, you might have an idea of what is done with Christian Slater in the film, because there's some stuff that happens in Deep Blue Sea that's a little shocking with the treatment of some of the higher caliber actors in it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I'm really excited to watch Deep Blue Sea. I've been advertising it to my fiance as the Smart Shark movie, and she's like, "That sounds stupid as fuck, but fine. I love you, so I'll watch it with you."
Not stupid. It's smart. They're smart
Yeah, they're
sharks.
smart. Damn it! Did you not listen to what I said?
I may need you to test out the Atmos track, but I have seen people confirming there's multiple confirmations here. So just a word of warning, you may be in we'll see if Arrow does a replacement program. I don't know. But
Okay, well, I better watch this soon then. If
yes.
I need to get a replacement disc or something. Thank you for
Yes.
the tip, because I wasn't aware of that.
Very interesting.
Very interesting. Beside that, we have The Penguin, the HBO Max series, is getting a 4K release. Um, Brad, thoughts on The Penguin? Because we've both now seen this. I did watch this with my fiance not that long ago. She was really hesitant to get into it. She was like, I don't know, man. But I convinced her, and we watched it, and she ended up liking it she ended up liking it, and
Hmm.
I did too. It didn't like blow my fucking mind, but I did enjoy the writing. I did enjoy the characterizations, probably more than the plot.
Yeah.
And the production values, because it's HBO. Like, it looks very nice. Like, it doesn't look cheap. So that goes a long way. But yeah, Brad, I've heard some of your thoughts on this one, but not all of them. So, Penguin, what's your thoughts on the Penguin?
Yeah, I thought it was good. Again, yeah, it didn't blow me away by any means. But overall, I thought it was pretty handsomely put together, and I think probably my favorite thing actually was the performances. I mean, Colin Farrell, he's kind of chewing it up, in a fun way. I think he is quite good in the role, and I forget the actress who plays Sophia, but I thought she was very good. And my biggest surprise, I thought the actress who played his mom, I thought
Yeah,
she was amazing, and
she
everything with her
was.
character was phenomenal.
Yeah, Kristen Milioti, or
That's right.
Milioti, is
Yep.
the actress who played Sophia. But yeah, the mom, like, it's impossible to watch this and also know that it's an HBO series without thinking of The Sopranos just a little bit. And the actress who played the mom was really good. Like,
Hmm.
the three of them, like Colin Farrell, Kristen Milioti, the woman who played his mother in it, they're all incredible. Like, they're really showing up to play. It almost feels like they're kind of like daring each other to top one another.
Hmm.
But like, the triumvirate of those three characters is the foundation of the thing. Because like, sometimes the plot gets a little bogged down in details that I don't necessarily care that much about. But just spending time with these characters, like, that's, to me, that's like one of the big benefits of the series format, is the time allotted. Like, you just kind of get to hang out with people and see more facets of them than you would be allowed to in a film. And like, for instance, that one episode devoted to telling Sophia's backstory, like of her imprisonment and things like that. That was really effective filmmaking. Like,
Hmm.
And that's something that you can't do with a film, is to devote an entire episode just to fleshing out a snippet of this character's history. So I think it had some very high highs. I don't know if it was like consistently amazing, but when it was on, and also it was kind of impressive how dialogue oriented it was. Because maybe I'm spoiled by things like the Netflix version of Daredevil, not so much Daredevil Born Again, but like I used to tease the Netflix Daredevil for its format, where virtually every episode had to end with him punching somebody, because they understood well enough that in terms of attention spans, it's like we can't have these people talk for a full ass hour without somebody getting hit. It's a superhero show. We got to give the people what they want every once in a while. Just
Mm-hmm.
let them turn off their brain and enjoy the fireworks or something. But Penguin is like 90% dialogue oriented. Like it's very much entrenched in its characters, rather than action. Like it's not at all an action series.
Yeah, it's a weird mix because it's clearly trying to be in the same zone as The Sopranos, like a elevated mobster drama series, and there's not a ton of action in it. There is some, but there's not a ton. But it does have those little superhero comic book sprinkles that kind of like almost pull you back down, where it's like, okay, this is still kind of a goofy, super villain esque show where it's almost just kind of a weird dichotomy where it's really trying to elevate the material, but it still has those sort of, it's got to have the references to Arkham. It's got to have the bat signal at the end. It's got to have these kind of weird, goofy things in it. And I feel like if it wasn't as beholden to that stuff, it could maybe have really elevated it up even higher. But it it is still quite good. And, certainly when I heard that the Penguin was going to be getting his own show, my expectations were much lower than it ended up being. And I think it was, yeah, overall a success.
Yeah, no, I was impressed with the writing in particular. Like there's like a through line to the narrative arc for the character that they do follow through on, and it goes some exceptionally dark places, but it does so very comfortably. Like it doesn't feel like it's afraid of doing what it set out to do, which is pretty impressive. And yeah, the comic book stuff is there, but I have to applaud it ever so slightly for showing the restraint that it does. Because, like,
Hmm.
yes, the bat signal is in the show. Batman isn't, though, nor are any costumed supervillains of any sort. Like, it's entirely just a crime drama that takes place in Gotham. And I'm sure I'm sure maybe there was some pressure to do more of that, to give more Easter eggs, to tease more comic booky elements, things to tie back to the movies or whatever. But mostly keeps it on the even keel there. I think it's greenlit for a second series season, right?
I don't, you might be right. I don't know.
I don't actually know. I'm just guessing.
I know initially it was presented as like a limited one-off series, but it might have gotten because that's kind of the thing now. Say like this is a one-off, and then it becomes popular, and they're like, all right, we're gonna do more actually.
Fine.
And yeah, what White Lotus was in that zone. I mean,
Now we're three
so
seasons deep.
yeah, yeah, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if I would ask for more. I would ask for more of this character. Like if Matt Reeves continues to make his the Batman movies, which it sounds like he's going to eventually. Who fucking knows when? But it does sound like he's on the hook to do at least one more movie. I would very much like to see what became of Oz. They didn't call him Oswald Cobblepot in this. They called him something else. Probably because they decided Oswald Cobblepot just sounds too dumb.
I mean, that's another, like, there are just those little, and I'm glad they didn't do that, but it's always in the back of your mind that that's like what his name is, and you're
I
like,
think they called him Cobb. I think they
yeah,
changed his surname to Cobb instead of
yeah,
Cobblepot.
yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, Moana 2 is getting a 4K steelbook. I don't know why it turned into Christopher Walken just now. And, you reviewed that for your show, correct?
Yeah, not amazing. it was originally the plan was to go to Disney Plus, and you can definitely feel it in the movie.
It's supposed to be a series, right?
Yeah, yeah, and you can
Fuck.
it does feel very segmented like that.
Yeah, that was the main thing that I heard about it, was that it wasn't on the same level as the first Moana, which I did see and did think was very impressive. But yeah, something about the structure of it, like so many people, even people I know who don't care about movies or don't read up on the news and stuff, they all told me like something off about it, like something about the way it flows just feels wrong. And if it was supposed to be a series, which has been confirmed to have been the case, yeah, that's not how you make a movie. Is to take a season of television and throw it into a fucking wood chipper and get a movie out of it. That's not how that works. Actually makes me think of a lot of anime, because that is a thing that they do with they used to anyway with anime, especially like Gundam and stuff, where they would take a, a 70 episode TV series, Brad, and chop it up into 3 movies or something, just as a way to like perpetuate the narrative, to like make it more accessible to people who can't devote 70 episodes of their life to it. And it always came out weird. Like it never came out satisfying, but is like, as far as just like hitting like the major, most satisfying bullet points of a story, that's what those ended up being. And it never turns out right. Like it always feels false. Like it always feels like you're getting a fraction of what it was supposed to be.
Mhm.
The Last of Us is getting a 4K release. That's also an HBO series, which the second season is due out when? I don't remember, but soon.
I think next month, or maybe by the time you're listening to it this month.
Yeah,
Listening to
that's
this, I mean, but yeah.
basically the reason I still have HBO is
Mhm.
because the games are excellent, and that first season of television I thought was very very good. The second season, as far as I know, the plan, and I've read up on this loosely, was that the second game is way longer than the first game. So the first season covers the events of the first game, which came out in the PlayStation 3 era of gaming. Last of Us 2 came out on the PS4, and is like at least twice as long as the first game. And as a result, I think they're doing 2 seasons to try to cover the events of the second game. And there's a character in the second game who like started a fucking firestorm on the internet. Like the fucking studio is like getting everybody, like all of their damage control people, ready to protect the actress who portrays that character, because they're expecting the same fucking shit to happen. So we'll see what the public reaction will be to this character,
Is it
and to this actress.
because I'm not familiar with the plot of the game where it goes, but I have some general ideas based on just reactions I've seen. Is it something the character does that causes the firestorm, or is it just how the character acts, or what?
It's Man, the internet's an ugly place, Brad. A very muscular woman.
Okay.
Is a very important character to the second game, a playable character, in fact, and everything about her, the internet just flipped its shit about. Like
Mhm.
everybody was up in arms about this character, and things that they did, the way their appearance, like their physique, the way the story is built around them. Just a lot of people were really angry about it. Very controversial game in a lot of respects, for very dumb reasons. So I'm really curious what the public reaction is going to be, because read up on it a little bit, Brad. Like try not to spoil things for you, but like it was a shit show. Like it was a
Mhm.
fucking firestorm.
Yeah.
It polluted the internet like really grotesquely.
I'm so over this review bombing shit on everything. I'm just so over this shit.
Yeah, but all that to say, I'm excited for The Last of Us Part Two,
Yeah.
especially because I don't get to watch that many things with my fiance. We have very different tastes when it comes to entertainment. But she really liked The Last of Us. She's never seen the games, knows nothing about them, didn't even know they were based on games until I told her about it. I've played the games, and enjoyed them. But she really liked the first season, so she's all on board for the second season. So I'm just looking forward to have something to watch with her.
Nice.
Um, yeah.
Oh, that's
By the
very
way,
sweet.
she had me watch Severance
Mm,
season two. She had me watch Severance season two. It was a mandate.
yeah.
I didn't care for it as much as she did, especially like I felt the writer's strike on the screen. Brad, I don't know if you've watched it, but
I have not seen the last episode because I watch it with my mom, but
oh, cool. That's sweet too, Brad.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm always a little behind, but yeah, season 2 was not hitting for me. I don't like I just the drive of the season, the motivations. I have some plot, like some not that I'm a huge thing with this or of plot holes, but
Yeah.
I have some very hard logic questions that make very little sense to me. Um, and I don't know. I mean, it's still well done,
Yeah.
I guess, in terms of the performances and direction. But yeah, just the overall drive of the season didn't have the quite the same as the first one. But I haven't seen the last episode yet, so I don't know.
Yeah, I mean you'll check it out. You'll watch it with your mom, but
Hmm.
yeah, I felt the writer's strike, and as you say, the drive is not there. Like
Yeah.
it feels like we're spinning our wheels, and that's why I say I feel the writer's strike. Where it's like
Hmm.
I don't think you guys are done, but you had to put something out,
Yeah.
and it looks amazing. Like it looks like $1 million. Probably costs $1 million, but that ain't enough sometimes. Moving on down though, the Wolfman is getting a steelbook release on 4K.
Not the Wolfman, just Wolfman. Wolfman.
Wolfman,
Wolfman.
just Wolfman is getting a steelbook 4K release. Um, you saw this. I had a chuckle again. Writer strike. I had a chuckle about people talking about this movie and saying that the titular Wolfman becomes nonverbal 20 minutes into the film, and I was like, is that a way to get around writing dialogue? Is to make a film like that that's very sparsely written, the
Hmm.
most sparsely written? But you said this was like okay, right?
Yeah, it was. I would actually like to watch it again because there are some really cool ideas and moments and scenes that I thought were actually kind of great and up there with the Invisible Man film, the
Yeah.
new one. But it just kind of never fully comes together and it kind of ends on a wet noodle. But I do think there are some really strong aspects to it. And I don't know, it did feel kind of like it was sort of just written off and forgotten when it came out. And again, I didn't love it by any means. I think maybe I give it a 3, but I think there is some good stuff here. And I think it's at least worth checking out.
Yeah, Kyle and I actually considered reviewing this for Catching Up on Cinema. I think it was removed from too many theaters too quickly, though, to the point that it would have been a chore for us to run out and go see it.
Yeah.
And then the reviews started coming in, and it was like, I think we both still want to see it, but it just the timing wasn't right. And as you say, it seemed like the studio didn't have much enthusiasm. Like nobody seemed to care much about this movie. I still want to see it though, because Lee Whannell does seem to be a talented director. I did like The Invisible Man, and some of the ideas that I'm aware of being present in this movie sound interesting to me. So,
Hmm.
and also werewolf stuff is cool. Like I'm just kind of into it. Um, I'll toss it over to you, Brad. What are some picks? What are some picks? Like, what are some movies that jump out at you?
Well, you have Tommy coming out through, I believe that's a Shout Select
Yeah,
release. And correct me if I'm wrong. This is the movie with the Who, right? The Who's music. Does that sound right?
yeah, you're correct. I
Yeah.
was not aware of that until I just took a look. But yeah, you
Okay.
are right.
Yeah. Rock opera.
Ken Russell, by the way, Ken Russell directed.
Oh, yeah. What else has he done? I'm trying to think.
Altered States, I think, was him,
Yes.
and I think was it Gothic or whatever. Uh,
Yeah. Did he do the Devils too?
Not positive on that one. I'll keep digging. But any other thoughts on Tommy? Because this isn't totally off my radar.
Yeah. I don't have much to say about it, but it does feature um Kyle's buddy Oliver Reed apparently.
Yay! Sauced Oliver Reed.
So there you go. But yeah, I'm not a big rock opera movie guy, but I generally like The Who. I've seen them in concert, so it was pretty. It was actually when I saw them, it was they did, and I didn't know this at the time, and I wish I did because it would have affected my pre-concert prep. They did the entire. I think the name of the album is Quadrophenia. They did the entire album in its entirety, and uh, so they didn't really play all of their hits, which I actually generally like, if especially if it's a band I like, but I just didn't know that going in. So it was kind of a weird experience where, you're 45 minutes into the concert and you're like, are they going to play Baba O'Reilly? What's going on here? I don't
Nope.
recognize any of these
Nope, we're
songs.
not here for that, Brad.
I think they played two hits at the end. Like they did like an
Okay.
encore with two hit songs, but they were good. They were very good though.
Do you have a favorite Who song?
Oh boy, I do love Magic Bus. I think that's a classic. The
I always
Seeker.
think of Homer Simpson requesting
Yeah.
Magic Bus. Magic Bus.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, they do have a lot of great songs. What's yours? While I struggle to think of what another one,
Mine
the
is
title of one.
Eminence Front.
That's the one I was thinking of. I couldn't think of the title. It's a put on. I love that
It's a
song.
put on, yeah. It's
Yeah.
an unconventional one as far as I know. Like, I'm not super well versed in the Who, but I think they changed up the lead singer for that one. And it just has a unique vibe to it. I really love that song.
I want to say that's from that album too. I could be wrong.
The Quadrophenia or whatever?
Oh, maybe I'm wrong. Yeah,
I don't know albums. I never know albums.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so beside Tommy, though, we have Baby Girl. Baby Girl from 2024. You saw this one, correct? This is an A24 film.
Yep. Yep. It's directed by the director who did Bodies, 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 which I
Mm,
liked a lot.
yeah.
This one, kind of a sexual, erotic. I wouldn't even call it a thriller, really. Um, and I thought it was good. Some very memorable moments of direction. Like there's a nightclub sequence that I thought was amazing. Overall, I didn't love it, but performances were very good. Nicole Kidman, I know she had some buzz at the end of last year. I don't think she got a nomination, but Antonio Banderas, I thought was awesome in this movie, and
Yeah, I remember hearing that.
I feel like people kind of slept on him a little bit, and I thought he was very good.
Yeah, no, I heard like he was one of the standouts. Like
Hmm.
kind of people slept on him
Yeah,
on this film. Like people were too busy thinking about Paddington and Peru or whatever. It's like, hey,
yeah,
he does other things.
yeah, yeah.
uh, but yeah, I remember seeing some advertising for this. It looked interesting. Looked like one of those movies that we don't get as many of these days, but whenever they
Hmm.
come out, it makes a big splash. And this one was pretty well received. The General's Daughter is getting a 4K release. This is a military legal thriller from the 1990s, something we got a fair amount of in that decade. A Woman of Paris from 1923, Brad, is getting a Blu-ray release. Not familiar with it personally. Are you?
No, but I did look it up just now, and it is a Charlie Chaplin movie.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, but it looks like he looks like he's in it, but obviously not the lead. He does not play the woman of Paris, as far as I know. But yeah, I obviously, I like Charles Chaplin. Not that I'm an expert, but this is one that seems a little under the radar. I'd be curious to check it out.
Okay. We got Forbidden World coming to us from Shout Factory on 4K. We have Thirst getting a 4K limited edition digipack releases from 1979. Harlequin, love that cover, Brad.
Yeah,
Know nothing about this film, but it's from Powerhouse Films from 1980. And damn, I really love that cover art.
that is nice.
Just compositionally, in terms of color and just the structure of the figure's face on the cover, works for me, brother. Uh, do you know that quote, Brad?
No, I mean, is it Hulk Hogan or?
Yeah, of course it is.
Okay, I assumed. I mean,
The quote is that doesn't work for me, brother. It was apparently an actual clause in his contract wherein he had creative control. So people would say, okay, Hulk Hogan, you're going to come out tonight and you're going to lose to Bill Goldberg. And he'd say, that doesn't work for me, brother. And they'd have to rewrite it.
I like it.
Yeah, we use it in my household, me and my fiance. That doesn't work for me, brother. So she'll be like, okay, we're going to go out and we're going to hang out with my friends and get dinner and go see this movie. That doesn't work for me, brother. um, Tulsa King, season 2. That's the Sylvester Stallone. Is that a Taylor Sheridan or Tyler Sheridan joint? Or is it something that's probably in the same lane?
It probably is him. I don't know. He's got so many. He puts his name on everything on Paramount Plus these days, so it probably is.
Yeah, my brother sent me a really funny article explaining the drama on Yellowstone and about how he pushed Kevin Costner out of the show so he could supplant him as the star. He's like, "Fuck it, I'll do it myself."
Yeah.
Godsend. Godsend. Wow, I put the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable. Godsend. No, Godsend.
It works. We know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Anything else from this week that you want to talk about, Brad?
No, I think that about covers it for that week.
One of these days, I will watch a Jean-Paul Belmondo film, just because there's so many schlock movies with him holding a handgun on the cover of them that I got to know. I got to know what the deal is with this Jean-Paul Belmondo guy, because somebody thought this guy was hot shit, and somebody thought putting a gun in his hand on the poster for a movie was money. And I got to know, is it true? Am I missing out?
You probably are.
I probably am. Moving on, though. March 25th, 2025. I have nothing to say about it. Haven't seen it. Know its reputation. The Brutalist, Brad. Thoughts on The Brutalist? He's getting a 4K release.
I love The Brutalist. One of my favorites from last year. Adrian Brody, he is the definition of actor brain, but he is amazing in this movie.
Brody
His
beats.
speech was horrible, but he is amazing in the movie. And yeah, I quite loved the movie. Just kind of feels like a classic, epic, just classic drama film. Like there's not really much of a hook. Like you're waiting, if you're going into this thinking, okay, well, what's the big hook for this? There's not much. It's really is just an immigrant story that reflects on America itself. And I thought the direction was amazing. And yeah, I can't wait to watch it again. And I haven't looked into it, but I assume and I'm hoping that the the 4K includes the famous intermission.
I would think so. Yeah. I mean,
I would hope
include it as a chapter on the disc.
Yeah, just include with the still image. I think they have to, because the still image that they show during the intermission actually informs the plot. So I can't see how they wouldn't. But I hope it has a 10-minute countdown. I hope it's not just like, you see the photo and then it, for 10 seconds, then we fade out to the new Act 2. I hope there is a 10-minute countdown, because that's going to be a lot of fun, having people over to watch The Brutalist and saying, we're not hitting pause. We are not hitting, once this hits play, we're not hitting pause. There is an intermission. So get your popcorn now. You're going to have to hold it. It'll be fun.
It's like, don't panic. We only have one microwave in the house, but there is Easy Mac available for everyone. If you all queue up in front of the microwave, I think we can manage this in 10 minutes.
Plenty of time.
Keep organized. Keep moving. We can make this happen. Yeah, I need to watch this. I've heard it's excellent. Night of the Creeps is getting a 4K release, I presume from Shout / Scream Factory. They seem to cover this territory. I didn't even look. I just know. This is from 1986. And this is from Fred Decker, I believe. Have you seen Night of the Creeps, Brad?
I've never seen it. Nope.
This is a good candidate for a retro review.
Yeah.
I like Night of the Creeps. I caught this one late at night when I was pretty young. And yeah, it's a nice little B-schlock movie. It kind of follows that wave of Levi, classic captain. Your captain speaking, by the way, has left a few comments on the stream. So he apparently was watching it at some point. he had mentioned, and I'll just throw the comment up here, the 80s had a lot of 50s horror remakes that were really home runs between The Thing, The Fly, The Blob, though I don't care for the remake. It's some good stuff. Yeah, it seemed like there was a renewed interest in B movies from the 1950s. Like we had like a resurgence of that vibe in the 1980s. And while this is not a remake, it is very much made in the same vein. Like it's paying homage, it's paying tribute to those movies. And Fred Decker very obviously loves those movies. Like you can tell from the rest of his filmography. But yeah, this is a nice little like alien zombie movie. Has a very good sense of humor about itself. Has a really fun energy to it. Very watchable. Really enjoyable. Speaking of really watchable and enjoyable, Tommy Boy and Black Sheep are both getting 4K releases. Uh, I've often thought of Chris Farley as like one of the funniest fucking people I've ever seen. I don't know if you agree with me on that, but
In terms
Tommy
of
Boy, yeah,
physical comedy, for sure. Yeah.
yeah, no, I love Chris Farley, and Tommy Boy is a special movie. Just it hits that interesting, it toes that line of sincerity and comedy, where it's both a dumb fat guy fall down comedy, quite literally, but also when it needs to be serious, when it needs to have heart, it does so like flawlessly, like just effortlessly. So Tommy Boy stands apart from most of his filmography, although I do like a lot of his movies. And Black Sheep is a lot of his other movies. Like to me, it's very funny. It gets a little bit of like an extra nostalgia bump for being heavily entrenched in the grunge scene. Like it takes place in the Pacific Northwest. I think Garfield County is where the majority of the plot unfolds, and that's I don't live in Garfield County, not even fucking close. But just to have Washington mentioned in a movie is always going to be kind of neat, especially in the 90s when so much of the cultural lens was focused on the Pacific Northwest because of the grunge music scene. Although this was very late to the game, as movies often tend to be because of how long they take to make. But Black Sheep is good, but I don't think it's equal to Tommy Boy, not by any means.
It's interesting that Tommy Boy is being put out by Paramount Pictures, while Black Sheep is being put out by Kino.
Oh no shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the cover art suggests that there's a different studio at work, but that interesting. It must have been like a licensure issue or something. Beside that, though, we have Night Moves, which I know as a song more than a movie, from 1975, starring the recently departed Gene Hackman. Have you seen or heard much about Night Moves, Brad?
No, I don't know much about it. Unfortunate timing. I guess you could say, unfortunately, uh, right on timing. I guess it's
I mean, yeah, I mean, fortunate and unfortunate timing.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know much about Night Moves as a film, but like I said, it's Kenny Rogers. Did he do the song? I can't remember.
Bob Seger, I believe.
Bob Seger. There you go. Some other bearded fella.
He's a Michigan boy, so we know our Seger over here.
I like Bob Seger. There's a running joke in my family about my dad talking about his relationship to his drummer, because we have Kyle and I had this skit in mind where it's just like Bob Seger just abusing and just being the most awful human being to his drummer, where it's like every time the drummer wants to do his own thing, like put a little stank on something, it's like no, you're not here for that. It's like, you're here to keep the beat. They're here for me.
You're like, in the Silver Bullet Band, buddy. I'm Bob Seger. It's Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band. All right, buddy.
Yeah, you get it. That's the skit, is because my dad is he was a drummer, like he has experience being a drummer, and he likes Bob Seger, but he always noticed like there's not a whole lot going on there in the percussion. It's like, this is a great song, but somebody's being reeled back, like somebody's being held back. So Kyle and I imagine the scenario where Bob Seger's just like getting up in the guy's face and be like, no, it's not, it's all day long. The whole concert.
I can see it.
Anyway, Don't Torture a Duckling, 4K, 1972, from Arrow. Neat cover art. I don't know this one though. Interesting title.
Yeah, I've seen it. I believe it's a Fulci film, Lucio Fulci, if I'm not
Correct.
mistaken.
Yeah.
It's a very early giallo, so very loose in the terms of it being a giallo. But
Gotcha.
yeah, I don't remember much about it, but it was okay. It didn't blow me away, but I know a lot of people really do like it quite a bit.
Yeah, and speaking of Giallo, we got Forgotten Gialli, Volume 8, from, I presume this is Vinegar Syndrome?
Hmm.
Yes, it is. Brad, where are you at in your collections of Forgotten Gialli?
I believe I have all of them up until this one, volume 8. I haven't even opened the box, but I just got volume 7 in the mail the other day because it was, the first two, I only have the standard edition because I wasn't collecting them at that point, and I missed out on the limited edition versions. But since I've continued to get the limited edition versions, and now they're making them in lesser quantities, so they're selling out faster. So I actually had to get volume 7 before it even went on sale. But I was like, I can't miss out. I'm pot committed at this point. I have to do it.
Okay, yeah, I'm glad to hear you're keeping up with those because all of these are amazing packages for sure.
Hmm.
Like, make for wonderful display pieces. Um, Severin, it looks like, is putting out Delicatessen, which is a very well regarded film from Jean Pierre Jeunet, who gave us Alien Resurrection and City of Lost Children, I believe. Kyle's a big fan of the latter, not so much the former. And Antiviral is also being put out by Severin. That's the lesser Cronenberg. Is that correct?
Yeah, Brandon Cronenberg.
There you go. B Cronenberg.
Yep. Yeah.
Quite literally B
Truthfully.
Cronenberg.
And this was his first feature, I think, and at the time, I remember it was not well received. I never saw it, but it felt like, when Possessor came out, he was kind of very much lauded, and I do like that movie a lot, and I think Infinity Pool is great, so I'm curious to see this one to see if maybe it is a bit of a forgotten gem, or maybe it was his first feature and he's kind of had to get his C legs, his letter C Cronenberg legs in order. We'll see.
Yeah, yeah. I've heard mixed reviews of this one, but I'd like to check it out. And also, Infinity Pool, I have not seen, but I do know there's a director's cut available for it that I think I heard was the superior edition of the film. Um, I would like to see that, just
Yeah.
because I remember you giving it some praise.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw the theatrical in theaters, and I have the director's cut on 4K, and I did watch them both. Not major differences, but just, a little more sex, a little more gore, maybe a little
Okay,
more drugs if you're
a
into
little
that
more
kind of
body
thing.
fluids.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Well, we got the Agfa mystery mixtape vault. I know you're a fan of Agfa. Is this one you think you'll pick up?
I don't know. I do quite like Agfa, but I'm not totally familiar with what this one is, to be totally honest with you.
I
And
mean,
I
honestly, it probably doesn't matter, like given the nature of Agfa. Folks, if you're not aware, American Genre Film Archive is what Agfa refers to.
Yeah, so says it's a 2-disc 500-minute odyssey that collects 8 feature-length VHS mixtapes from the crackpots at Agfa. Um and I'll be honest, I don't know what that means. Do you know what that means? Cuz I don't.
I don't. Perhaps it's like handmade VHS tape recordings, like maybe like recordings off of television or something,
Yeah, that could be.
converted
Um
to digital and cleaned up, perhaps.
it looks like there's some very memorable images here, but yeah, it's kind of thing where it I don't know if it actually has any, it might just be, yeah, like little snippets and things like that from television specials or what. And I don't know if I'm really into that. I'm not into the mixtape. I'm not even with music. I'm not into these mixtapes. I want the original studio version. I don't want some mix remix. Come on.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about it personally, but I do know there is a little bit of a subculture devoted to it. Like, eBay actually has become a place where people buy these tapes, where like they buy VHS tapes of like family recordings off of the TV, and TV in particular. Like there's a, was it the We Hate Movies podcast? One of them like got into buying VHSs off of eBay of old David Letterman shows
Mm,
from like the 1990s, and just watching it like you would watch television, complete with commercial breaks and stuff. And it's just like a huge nostalgia pop for them or something.
yeah, that
I
that
don't
is cool.
entirely
That is
get it,
cool.
but there is a novelty associated with it.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't collect that personally, but in watching that, I would probably get some nostalgia feels from it.
Hmm.
Moving on though, we got The Mansion of Madness from 1973. This is a Vinegar Syndrome disc. Uh, and that's all I have to say about it. We also have Choose Me, getting a 4K release from the Criterion Collection from director Alan Rudolph. Go ahead and read the plot summary. Several lost soul night owls, including a nightclub owner, a talk radio relationships counselor, and an itinerant stranger, have encounters that expose their contradictions and anxieties about love and acceptance. Keith Carradine is in the cast, as is Radon Chong, and everybody's favorite, John Larroquette, the man with the voice and the hairline. Um, I'll toss it over to you, Brad. What are some other titles that jump out at you, if anything?
Well, Memoir of a Snail I haven't seen, but that was one of the best animated feature nominees at the Oscars this year. Um, and I'd like to check it out because I think I saw all of the other best animated feature nominees, but don't know too much about it. Um, Shaw Brothers Classics Volume 6. I don't know if you have anything to say about that. Right next to it.
No, when it comes to like Wuxia movies and Shaw Brothers movies, I love martial arts cinema, but unfortunately, that's a lane that doesn't hold my interest in the same way.
Hmm.
The Lady is the Boss from 88 Films. I'm really, really digging 88 Films, by the way. They put out some amazing
Oh, they're
packages.
great.
They really do. They do good work. I don't know this movie, but it's from 1983, and there is no plot summary available for it. Uh, Desperado is getting a 4K release. That's an individual 4K release from Arrow. Very wise on their part, being as I think most people have a different relationship to Desperado than they do El Mariachi and Once Upon a Time in Mexico. Uh, being as El Mariachi is an indie film that not everybody's on board with that level of budget and whatnot, and Once Upon a Time in Mexico is not very good.
Are you
Desperado stands apart.
Are you calling me a putz for buying the Mexico trilogy box set? Is that what you're saying? You're calling me a putz?
No, actually, I considered buying it myself. I really did, because El Mariachi as a piece of film history, as a something for like an aspiring filmmaker to take a look at, is special. Like
Hmm.
that's its value. Is not
Yeah,
so much the product; it's how it came to be.
yeah. I
Desperado is basically a remake of it done with a higher budget.
Yeah, I like El Mariachi and Desperado. Not as crazy about Once Upon a Time in Mexico, but I my thought process was like, okay, I probably would want to watch both of those, at some point, back to back. And then at that point, I probably will at some point in my life before I die just finish the trilogy. Like, all right, I'll watch Once Upon a Time in Mexico. I mean, I already watched the first two, so that was my thought process.
Yeah, no, I really did seriously consider picking it up, especially because I think it was kind of on sale at a certain point.
Mhm.
I probably missed the boat in terms of getting like the Arrow hard case or whatever. But at the very least, I would like to have Desperado on my
Yeah.
shelf. I really do like Desperado quite a lot.
Mhm.
Um, Here Comes a New Challenger is getting a new packaging with a championship edition. I don't know if it has any new bells and whistles, but I dig the Super Nintendo cartridge packaging. I actually already have this on Blu-ray. I think I paid into the Kickstarter for it, or whatever crowdfunding system they were using for it. This is I believe is it Oliver Harper? He's a YouTuber. He
Mm.
made this documentary. It's about the making and legacy of Street Fighter Two, the video game.
Okay.
I haven't watched it yet, but I would like to. And I'm still scrolling down, but stop me if there is anything else that jumps out at you, Brad.
Stop.
I stopped.
Uh,
I stopped.
just point out 444 Last Day on Earth. Have not seen it. I've actually heard it's not quite that good, but it does have Willem Dafoe, and it is Abel Ferreira,
Oh,
who
okay.
is, I don't know how he's doing lately, but he's definitely acclaimed, at least back in the day. And it is from IFC Films, which is a Vinegar Syndrome partner label.
Yeah, as far as I know, most of the goodwill associated with his name comes from uh, Bad Lieutenant.
Mm-hmm.
His Invasion of the Body Snatchers remake, I think, wasn't especially well received in the
No.
'90s. But it all comes back to Bad Lieutenant. Like everybody,
Yeah.
like he'll always have that, regardless
Yeah.
of what his reputation is these days.
King of New York was quite good as well. I liked that one.
Oh, I haven't seen that one. I
Yeah,
forgot that was him.
I think it was him at least.
I
Don't
think
quote
you're
me on that.
right.
Don't quote me
Um,
on that.
no, I've heard good things about that one, but
Okay.
I
Okay.
did not realize he made it. Um, moving on down. Uh, not finding a whole lot. There's a Trailer Park Boys movie, I presume, Standing on the Shoulders of Kitties. I only bring that up because my sister-in-law is a big fan of the Trailer Park Boys. She made the family watch it at a certain point, and I actually kind of liked it. Like I didn't
Yeah,
keep up
it's all
with it.
right.
Like I didn't get obsessed with it or anything, but I liked what I saw. I thought they were
Yeah.
funny,
Hmm.
and I like that now I know those guys' faces. So when they pop up in cameos in Canadian films and stuff, I'm like, oh, it's a Trailer Park Boy. I know
Yeah.
that guy.
Yeah.
And they do pop up in a lot of weird places. It's kind of fun. But yeah, I think that's about it for
Yeah.
me.
That's all I got.
Okay, well, we've hit the end of March 2025, so let's head into the part of the program where we retrace our steps and just call out anything that we think we're going to be picking up or we already have picked up. So let's go from the bottom to the top. So go ahead and call out things as you see them, Brad. One Piece season
Um,
14. Of course, Santino's going to pick that guy up. Although
definitely.
I don't think he's a physical media guy.
Yeah. Um, definitely not being picked up by me. That's for sure.
What about Delicatessen and Night Moves, Brad?
I I would maybe pick up Delicatessen in the next Severin sale. And antiviral as well. In the next Severance sale, I'd probably pop on them.
Okay, Desperado is a maybe for me. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, probably a certainty. Just it's a matter of when.
Yeah.
Antiviral, I don't think I need to own that, but I will watch it. I'm interested enough. Delicatessen, I probably need to see just because it has an excellent reputation, and I've seen
Mm-hmm.
shots from it, and it looks beautiful,
Yep.
as a lot of Jean-Pierre Jeunet movies are. Um, the Brutalist, I need to see that, and you're
I'll
probably going to own that, right?
Yeah, I'll be picking that up for sure.
Gotcha. Uh, Deep Blue Sea, I already got the 4K. Same with Godzilla versus Biollante. So both of those already blew my wad.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Wolfman, I will probably watch. I'm not going to pay a cent to watch it though.
Yeah, that's fair.
Um, the Last of Us and The Penguin, I don't often buy TV, and I've seen both of these now, so they're basically off my list. Um,
I'll probably get Deep Blue Sea as well. At some
fuck
point.
yeah.
Yeah.
Retro review. Make it
Yeah,
happen.
let's do it. I love
Customs
shark
frontman.
movies.
I know you love shark movies. Speaking of which, there's a Jai Courtney shark movie that's coming out. Have you ever heard about this? Have you seen this,
No,
Brad?
I don't think so.
Look it up. Look it up. Jai Courtney is in a shark movie. It's
All
I
right.
think it's either out right now or it's just about to come out. It's a good use of your Jai Courtney. He should be making shark movies.
Dangerous animals.
There you go. You found it. Customs Frontline. I kind of want to see it just to see the action design because it does have good, talented people working on that aspect of it. But I don't know. The propaganda aspect of it is. I can only handle so many of those a year. I still watch them, but I can only handle so much. Thief 4K. I would like to get that. I would like to
Yeah,
see that.
that's an eventually for me.
Gotcha. Uh, Den of Thieves. It sounds like we'll both probably end up watching that. I don't know if we'll buy it though.
I think it's on Netflix right now, so that's where I will be experiencing it for sure.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
If you have a slow week or something, hit me up. We can review Den
Yeah,
of
yeah.
Thieves too. Pantera.
Right.
Craven. Sure, I'll watch it on streaming. I'm not paying a fucking cent to watch that. Wages of Fear, I do need to see. I don't think I'll buy it though, but I do need to see it just for educational purposes.
Mhm.
And Gladiator 2, I'm not a big fan. Like I have completionist tendencies. I like if there are sequels that exist to something, I like to also have those.
Mhm.
For fuck's sake, I have Bloodsport 1, 2, 3, and 4. The Dark Kumite, by the way, is the subtitle. It's the only one of the Bloodsport series to have a subtitle.
Mhm.
Um, also doubles as softcore porn, by the way. Gladiator 2 just did so little for me that it's like it bugs me, the idea of having Gladiator on my shelf and not having Gladiator 2 from the same director, like produced on a grand scale budget.
Let's
But
just
I just
we
don't really
know
want it
eventually you're gonna buy this. We know there's no getting around it.
when it's in the
Before,
bargain bin.
yeah.
Maybe, yeah,
Oh yeah, Black
maybe,
Friday or something.
yeah,
You're gonna pop on it. Come on.
yeah. But it's like I'm at a stage where it's like I like to at least entertain the notion that maybe my fiance would want to watch movies with me. If she saw that I brought that into our home, she'd just be like, the fuck are you doing? These are dollars that could be going towards our wedding, and you're spending it on Gladiator 2. You stupid fuck.
You buy it in a package of wedding related stuff and you say, "Oh, how'd that get in here?"
Oh,
Must-
someone at the Amazon warehouse must have just thrown it in there.
I had it in my cart to save for later and it must have accidentally got included with these wedding tabletop
Yeah,
toppers.
it's this damn laptop. The trackpad, it's sticky. Like
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
must have hovered my mouse at the wrong thing and like hit it with the heel of my palm or
Yep.
something.
It happens. It happens.
Yeah, you get it. But yeah, I think that's about it for March 2025 as far as our Blu-ray and 4K perusing goes. But
Mhm.
yo, Brad, thank you so much for joining me today. This was a
Yeah.
lot of fun.
I'm glad we were able to fit it in, make it work.
Yeah, we got it in before the end of the month.
Mhm.
The streak is alive. Always glad to hear that. Like, I'm a big fan of streaks. I'm a big fan of consistency,
Yep. Yep.
obviously. So before we sign off, hey Brad, where can we find you and your super awesome podcast?
Well, thank you, Trevor. It's the Cinema Speak podcast. You can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts: iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify. We are on Twitter at the Cinema Speak, Instagram Cinema Speak Podcast, and on YouTube as Cinema Speak. And you can find us on the web, if that's how you choose to listen, at cinemaspeak.libsyn.com.
Okay, very well said. And look forward to new episodes on Thursdays every week. I
Thank
certainly
you.
do. It improves my morning on Thursdays of
Well,
each week.
I could say the same for you about Tuesdays, correct? It is Tuesdays,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, thank you.
We didn't even plan it, but we have kind of a nice um, you know, Tuesday and Thursday. It just kind of I like it. I like it.
Yeah, actually that would be kind of shitty if like if we stepped on each other's toes with our
Yeah.
release dates, or it's like, man, like why you got to do that?
All of our fans who listen to both of our shows have a nice way to space out the week because they get 2 days to listen to yours, then they can get 2 work days to listen to mine, and then the weekend is here, and it's great.
Yeah, it's the beginnings of a media empire. This was the plan. This was the plan
Yeah,
from the whole start.
I love
You
it.
three people that are watching this are privy to the grand plan.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But as for myself, the show is of course Catching Up on Cinema. You are listening to it / watching it. Hopefully, we are available on pretty much every podcasting platform you can imagine. So fucking Google it. I have the social medias, the Twitter and the Instagram, though I'm not especially active on either. I am part of the Red Cat Arcade / Entertainment Discord, however, which is a YouTube channel that I do freelance editing for, video editing, every once in a while. So if you want to get a hold of me and you're part of the Red Cow Discord, just look up Catching Up on Cinema and hit me up. But yeah, that being said, this has been the March 2025 edition of Catching Up on Blu-ray. I look forward to next month, where obviously we'll be talking about the April releases. We do it every month. And that being said, I guess thank you so much for listening and or watching, and we'll catch you next time.